Absolutely everyone talks about saving for retirement. The whole financial world is literally obsessed with building the pile. But almost nobody tells you what happens next. How do you actually turn that massive pile of savings into a reliable stream of money you can safely live on for decades? Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going way beyond the basics.
Because, look, here's the harsh reality. A giant number sitting in an investment account means absolutely nothing if you don't know how much you can pull out each year without running totally dry by the time you're 85. We spend our entire lives accumulating, but the second you retire, boom, the rules change entirely.
All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Here is exactly what we're going to cover. The decumulation dilemma, the famous 4% rule, mandatory withdrawals and taxes, tax-efficient withdrawal order, sequence of returns risk, and finally, we'll wrap up with the bucket strategy.
First up, Section 1, the decumulation dilemma, transitioning from saving to spending.
Taking money out requires a completely different mindset than putting money in. Think about it. For decades, you were in the accumulation phase, right? Your one and only job was to save, invest, and watch that pile grow. But retirement triggers the decumulation phase. It's like flipping a switch. Now, you're systematically dismantling that pile. You've got to figure out how to structure your withdrawals to make that money last for the rest of your life, through literally all kinds of crazy market conditions.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 4% rule, a historical baseline.
If you've spent any time at all looking into retirement planning, you have almost certainly seen this number. It's everywhere. The basic idea is super simple. In your very first year of retirement, you withdraw about 4% of your total savings. Then, every single year after that, you take that initial dollar amount and just bump it up slightly to account for inflation.
So, the crucial thing to understand here is that this rule actually originated from historical research. You'll often hear it tied to William Benjamin and the Trinity study. Basically, based on past U.S. market data, taking 4% gave you a reasonably high probability of your money lasting roughly 30 years. But, and this is a massive but, it is heavily debated among researchers today. Market conditions change, right? Retirement lengths vary wildly. It's a fantastic starting point for a conversation for sure, but it is definitely not some absolute guarantee.
Moving on to Section 3, mandatory withdrawals and taxes, the rules of the game.
You see, the 4% rule kind of assumes you exist in a vacuum. But in the real world, you can't just leave your money invested forever if you don't need it. Enter the government with required minimum distributions, or RMDs. As of 2024, once you hit age 73, you are legally forced to start withdrawing a minimum amount from your traditional 401ks and IRAs, period, whether you want to or not. These amounts are dictated by IRS actuarial tables, and if you've got a really large traditional account balance, these forced withdrawals can trigger some hefty, totally unexpected tax bills later in your retirement.
And this right here is where account types matter immensely. Traditional accounts, yeah, they are subject to those forced RMDs, but your Roth IRA, it generally skips this requirement entirely during the original owner's lifetime. You can just let that money sit there and experience glorious tax-free growth as long as you live. Honestly, that is a massive strategic advantage.
Let's look at Section 4, Tax-Efficient Withdrawal Order, a 67-year-old couple case study.
Let's take all these rules and actually apply them to a real-world scenario. Imagine a hypothetical 67-year-old married couple filing jointly. They've got a cool $1 million portfolio, and it's spread out perfectly. A taxable brokerage, a traditional 401k, and a tax-free Roth IRA. Let's say they want to use that 4% rule, which means they need $40,000 this year. To be smart about it, they aren't going to just yank it all out at once. They'll take smaller monthly withdrawals of about $3,333 so the rest of their money stays invested and growing. But here's the million-dollar question. Which account do they pull from first?
Well, to answer that, we've got to look at the tax code. For a married couple in 2024, the standard deduction is $29,200. Plus, because they're over 65, they get a sweet senior bonus of $1,550 each. Add that up, and it means they have exactly $32,300 of space shielded entirely from federal income tax. No taxes whatsoever on that chunk.
So here's the precise order of operations to hit their $40,000 goal efficiently. Step 1. They pull exactly $32,300 from their traditional 401k. Because of that deduction we just talked about, the federal tax rate on that money is 0%. Plus, they're shrinking that traditional balance, which brilliantly reduces those forced RMDs later on. Okay, step 2. They still need $7,700 to hit their 40K goal. They pull that from the taxable brokerage account, which falls right into the 0% capital gains bracket. Step 3. They leave the Roth IRA completely untouched, so it keeps growing tax-free. The final result, $40,000 of income and zero federal income tax. How cool is that?
But wait, it definitely gets a bit more complex. What if they're also claiming Social Security? See, the IRS uses this formula called provisional income, which looks at 50% of your Social Security benefits plus your traditional 401k withdrawals. If that provisional income number gets too high, suddenly your Social Security benefits become taxable. So if our couple was getting Social Security, they'd have to dynamically adjust this whole strategy, maybe pulling less from the 401k and more from the brokerage just to stay under those invisible tax thresholds. It's a real balancing act.
All right, Section 5, Sequence of Returns Risk, the Danger of Market Timing.
Okay, we've talked taxes, now we really need to talk about market timing. Sequence of returns risk is absolutely crucial here. Basically, it's the idea that experiencing a market crash early in your retirement is vastly more dangerous than experiencing that exact same crash later on. Why? Well, because if the market is dropping and you're still pulling your $3,333 out every single month to pay your bills, you are pulling money out of a shrinking balance.
If the market takes a dive early on and you're withdrawing, your portfolio shrinks incredibly fast. You are essentially locking in losses by selling stocks while they're down. That means you have far less capital left to compound and recover when the market eventually bounces back. But if the dip happens late in retirement, or if you make zero withdrawals during the dip, your portfolio value actually survives. Honestly, timing is everything.
This brings us to our final part, Section 6, the bucket strategy, protecting your portfolio.
So how do you actually protect yourself from that sequence risk? Well, you separate your portfolio into liquidity buckets. Think of it like this. Your short-term bucket is cash or cash-like accounts. Your mid-term bucket is bonds and conservative investments. And your long-term bucket, that holds your equities and stocks. When the stock market crashes, and it will, you don't panic and you definitely don't sell your stocks at a loss. Instead, you just live off the cash in your short-term bucket. This gives your long-term equity bucket the time it desperately needs to recover. Once the market is back up, you simply sell some gains to refill your cash bucket. It's brilliant.
As we wrap this explainer up, I really want you to remember this. Which account you pull from when and how much all genuinely change your tax bill and how long your money lasts. It's less like a piggy bank and way more like a strategy game with real stakes. Retirement decumulation is this highly dynamic, complex strategy that requires constant adjustment based on market performance and shifting tax laws.
And because everyone's health, income, exact savings, and tax brackets vary so wildly, finding a qualified fiduciary financial advisor is genuinely worth the fee here. The stakes are just incredibly high. A single mistake with an RMD or a poorly timed withdrawal during a market crash can literally cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So I want to leave you with this question. Are you just blindly hoping your money lasts, crossing your fingers that the 4% rule just magically works out for you? Or are you actually preparing to play the strategy game of decumulation? And hey, before you go, make sure to subscribe to Grovey. We're here to help you actually become rich, manage your wealth correctly, and build a lasting legacy, instead of just watching other people pretend to be rich on the internet. See you next time.